Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Thank you for your patience. There are some tech issues behind the scenes, but we are here live on People's Voice Network. This is Conversations with Leftists. And we've got Z, Kay, me, Novi, Amira with the Demic Times, and as a special guest, Noli D. Say hi, Noli.
Hi.
And before we get started, let us know how to find you.
You can find me here on YouTube. It's probably the best way to find me, actually. My channel name's Noli D, and I'm also on like Twitter and Instagram. But like my Instagram is Strange Mind Dark Heart, and my Twitter is AJ No Way.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, and we're glad to have you on. We always see you in the comments, and we're like, we need to have Noli on. We were going to start bringing more guests on, and you're one of the first people that popped up in our group.
Oh well, thanks. I feel special now.
So today, Z, what do we got on the docket for today?
Today we have Marcio Lucio. She has her execution has just been, what is it now, a stay in. It's very confusing. Yeah, stay of. It's very confusing because the situation is very infuriating as well. And then we have some propaganda. We're going to be going over some some domestic violence, some trigger warning, sexual assault, and child abuse as well, from the police themselves. And our last thing is going to be going over the self-immolation that happened at the Supreme Court, outside of the Supreme Court. With that, I'm sorry, I'm still like razzing up from a couple minutes ago before my tech issue and everything, everybody. So just give me a second.
Right. So trigger warnings abound for this episode. But if y'all are available, come and watch. So Marcia Lucio, Noli, you've been following this case pretty closely. Could you give everybody a quick summary of what's been happening in case they didn't know?
Well, okay, so she has been on death row for I don't have my notes in front of me, but for a long time, far too long. She should have started speaking out sooner, or maybe she did and we just didn't know. That's just kind of how it goes in Texas, especially. But she just got a recent stay of execution thanks to the phone calls and the emails that the general public were making on her behalf, because it's a crime she clearly didn't commit. It didn't even happen. So Texas seems to, well, not just Texas, but a lot of the southern states, really, they seem to be okay with taking someone's life without being 100% certain that they're guilty of anything. Just a couple of years ago, a young man down south was put to death, and the day after, there was evidence that came back in, DNA evidence that would have proven him innocent, but the governor refused to give him a stay of execution. This happens way more than people realize. If you check out the Innocence Project, if you want to get involved in helping these people, so the cops, the crimes that they are actually able to, catch somebody at, or not catch them at, but investigate and find somebody, a suspect that gets a conviction, 10% of them are innocent. And then if you think about it, only 1% of crime is getting solved. 10% of that are people who are going on death row. 10% of that, they're innocent. We have hundreds of thousands of people on death row who may not have done what they're accused of. Right. And they're not getting a chance to be exonerated. They're not being given a chance to have their case retried. And this woman, luckily enough, we've spared her life for now. but all she's got is a stay of execution. That's just going to allow them to retry her case and bring forth the evidence again. And this time, of course, her testimony will be a little bit different. She was coerced. I mean, she told them over 100 times that she didn't do it. She wasn't there. She didn't know what they were talking about. And the way that they will mentally and physically torture you during their investigation, when they are questioning you, they used to call it the third degree. So they're not allowed to do this anymore, supposedly, but they still do. There's laws in England now where you can no longer lie to a suspect about the case. You can't tell them that there's evidence that there really isn't, to try and get them to confess. There's actually like a lot of cases just that I can think of off the top of my head where people have served 20 years, 30 years, 25 years, 15 years, and for something they didn't do. I have a brother down in Texas who is in prison for the rest of his life for something I'm certain he didn't do because of one piece of evidence, a phone call to his mother. He was 3 states away when he was supposedly hiding out in an attic in Texas. That phone call proves that he was 3 states away, but the state of Texas wouldn't allow that into evidence. And it was a sundown town. Some of you know what that is. They saw a young black man, and they pulled him over, and he had a friend with him. They both got arrested. They were interrogated for like 3 or 4 days straight before my brother's friend confessed, because he just wanted the questioning to stop. And so now my brother's sitting in prison for the rest of his life. You know, lucky that he's not on death row, but the person that he supposedly attacked didn't die. He got charged with aggravated robbery, and he had a life sentence for it. And so Texas is really, really probably one of the most notorious states for false prosecution.
I am so sorry, Noli. And I wish that we could cover all the cases here on this show, but we can't. But I'm glad that at the very least we can bring this coverage to light. Please follow Melissa Lucio's trial. Speak out, do whatever you can. Also work with the Innocence Project, do anything possible, because this stuff shouldn't stand. Ideally, we need to abolish our criminal justice system and replace it with something far better. But until then, we need to do everything we can. Amira, y'all have shared the video of the judge. Hold on just a second. Can you add that to the screen?
Sure.
One second. Sorry. I forgot to share audio. That's kind of important.
This morning to stop the planned execution of a woman named Melissa Lucio. Back in 2008, she was found guilty in the death of her 2-year-old little girl. Lucio's lawyers say the evidence shows it was a tragic accident. Her supporters include nearly half of the Texas legislature, including members of both parties, and even some of the jurors who convicted her. Lilia Luciano has been looking into this case.
Where my mom would go to.
Bobby Alvarez carries the words of his mom tattooed on his chest.
I'll always be with you, and here I'll always stay. And I decided to get it like right here because, it's close to my heart.
But time is almost up for Melissa Lucio, and the cry to stop the clock is getting louder.
I don't want my mom to be executed.
The mother of 14 children will be put to death on April 27th, accused of killing her 2-year-old daughter, Mariah.
It was an accident. If they go through with it, they'll be killing an innocent woman.
Bobby Alvarez was 7 when Mariah died. He says Mariah fell down a flight of stairs and died 2 days later. That's what Lucio told first responders and the police. But when the medical examiner saw the toddler's body covered in bruises, it was ruled child abuse, and investigators zeroed in on Lucio.
Now, were you a cold-blooded killer,
No, I'm not.
or were you a frustrated mother who just took it out on her for whatever reason?
No.
Lucio, who was pregnant with twins at the time, endured over 5 hours of interrogation where she denied killing Mariah, says Vanessa Podkins at the Innocence Project.
Over 100 times she asserted her innocence. They refused to listen to her, sending the clear message that this interrogation wasn't going to stop until she told the officers what they wanted to hear.
And she did, saying she spanked the child, but never admitting to the use of deadly force. That demonstration sealed Lucio's fate.
Why do you think she confessed?
Her so-called confession was the result of highly coercive interrogation tactics, some of which are so coercive that they're no longer used today.
Experts on false
There's a reason why this kind of interrogation is illegal, because the way that suggested, the way they keep badgering people, you just want it to stop, so you'll say anything. I mean, I remember being a kid and adults saying, "You did something, didn't you? You did something, didn't you? You did something, didn't you?" Within 5 minutes, I'm confessing to things that I have no idea of how I could have been able to do that. And this is over something similar as stealing like your sibling's toy. It happens with adults. It happens in all sorts of situations. So, Amira, Kay, what are your thoughts?
I mean, this is a lot of evidence of just really going after a group, a demographic of people, Black and brown people predominantly, that are being so affected by this policing system that is so broken, because they target these individuals in the way that they do with these kinds of lines of questioning in order to get them to make a confession, because they don't, at least for me, it looks like they don't want to do the work of actually having to ask questions, to investigate, and to really understand what was the situation that transpired to lead to this ultimate, very devastating, sad result. I mean, this woman lost her child, and that, she's having to sit through over 5 hours of interrogation from police officers that they just want this to be quick. They want it to be easy. They don't want to do the job that they're, supposed to be, that we want to think that they're supposed to be doing. And this really shows the issues we have with our policing system that preys upon the weak, that preys upon the poor, that can't properly represent themselves because they don't have the money to do so, because that is what our justice system is here in the United States. If you can afford it, you can get justice for yourself. But if you can't, you're screwed. And ultimately, very much like Melissa, you're at the mercy of this system and whether or not you'll be allowed to truly represent yourself or not. That's true, Austin.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what are your thoughts?
See, I've been thinking about this for a while, and I actually did see that video beforehand of her being interrogated by that cop and her being just absolutely just devastated and just saying over and over again, "I didn't kill my kid. I didn't kill my kid." At the end of the day, one of the biggest problems in the United States is that cops really don't care that much about serving and protecting. Their goal is to get a confession. Their goal is to solve the case, right? Their goal is to get it over with, right? And they take one look at the autopsy before it's even finished, and they're like, "All right, she killed her kid. Let's just wring it out of her, right? Let's just absolutely extract a confession out of this woman." And unfortunately, it works a lot because you just want it to be done. Police officers and like a lot of investigators and detectives, they're trained to grill. They're trained to psychologically to just get into your head And to endure that for hours and hours and hours while you just sit there trying to hold in all your repressed emotions, eventually a lot of people just cave in and they'll say, fine, I did it, just to get it to stop, because it's abuse. It's abuse at the end of the day. And it ties into something that's related to it a little bit. It's the same kind of anger and hatred and putrid just vileness of these kinds of people that fuel the people who want the death penalty to go forward even when people are innocent, right? We all watched The Green Mile. As much as that movie was dramatized and a little over the top, there are very sick people in the United States justice system who thrive off the thought of punishing and killing people who they think deserve it, or they'll convince themselves that they did it even if the evidence proves that they didn't, so they don't have to admit that their judgment is clouded, and they don't have to admit that deep down they're just bloodthirsty. The system enables bloodthirsty abusers and psychopaths to just be able to thrust the death penalty down onto anybody they want because they get off to this kind of stuff. My thoughts are with that woman. I hope that this goes somewhere. I hope her stay of execution allows them to go over this case so they can determine that she did not do this, because it's very clear, at least to me, she didn't do this. She doesn't deserve this.
Reading up on the case more, it looks like two of the people attached to the case, including Lucio's attorney, had conflicts of interest at the time and now have to be recused. And there are several evidentiary issues. There are issues with how representation was held up in court. It just looks like a mess from top to bottom. Noli, Mira, can y'all speak to that?
Yeah, so it looks like at this point now, they're looking to have those two individuals, I'm looking for it right now, recuse themselves because there was a former attorney that represented Lucio that is now working with the prosecution's office. So that's a conflict of interest there. And then there's another individual that was also linked with the case that is, I think, married to someone. So there's conflicts of interest that are a possibility. And then with the actual stay of execution and the petition for clemency, it was the court that found in 4 of the 9 arguments that there was a valid reason to provide Melissa with clemency. And that was that if the prosecution had not used false testimony, nor no juror would have convicted Lucio, that previously unavailable scientific evidence would preclude her conviction. And I believe that actually has to do with the autopsy of her child at the time, because the injuries that were sustained showed that it wasn't abuse, that it had been from the tumbling down of the stairs, and that there was also witness testimony that could go along with that. And then another issue that happened was that prosecutors suppressed favorable material evidence in violation of federal crime and in violation of federal law. And that seems to be a really prominent theme in these cases that we see, where prosecutors or police are using false evidence that they're trying to say is material to the case, when in actuality it isn't. It's not evidence that should be sustained in court. But because defense attorneys, especially in like Melissa's case, where you're going to be provided an attorney by the court, these are attorneys that are really struggling. They have a huge caseload. And one of the other things that we read about today is that a lot of them do suffer from drug and alcohol abuse, that they're unable to provide adequate defense to their clients because of the workload, because of the stress, because of, lack of proper compensation. And all of those factors have a really serious effect when you're in that courtroom, because if your attorney doesn't object to evidence that's being put forward, or witness testimony that's inadequate or inappropriate for the case, it makes it that much more difficult for these defendants to come forward later. And that's one issue that Melissa is having with her case, as well as all of these other people that are on death row that are looking for clemency because they didn't commit these crimes. So it's a lot of different issues coming together to really kind of screw over a lot of innocent people. It's a failure of the prosecution system, of the cop system, and the defense system of attorneys to be able to adequately do their job and represent these people fairly.
Oh, definitely. And one of the other issues, even with them trying to represent, even if they are in their best of intentions, they're not dealing with any addictions or anything like that. Worst case scenario. Because of how evidentiary laws place, a file that could be, that's big, for like a year could grow to huge on the day of trial. And then they barely have any time to look through all the evidence and figure out what pertains to the case, what doesn't, what things can help their client. And that could be very difficult. I mean, it cited that in New Orleans, for example, a public defender has 7 minutes to spend with a client between each case because of how big their caseloads are. So this makes the only person that this profits is our prison system.
Mm-hmm. The prison pipeline.
I do have a question, actually, and everyone probably knows the answer to this. Of all the people who've been sentenced to death and executed, right? How many of the people who have been killed are ruling class individuals? How many rich business tycoons have you seen sentenced to death for crimes? How many? None. The answer is none, at least none that we can really see. The death penalty only really affects, it's only there to hurt people at the bottom of society. The death penalty, anyone who tries to argue that the death penalty is a pillar of justice, they're just wrong. It's a justice system that serves, it doesn't serve us. So why the hell would the death penalty be any different?
I'm back.
Welcome back, Z.
Thank you. So did y'all go over the look into the EJI.org where they talk about the fact that 186 people have been exonerated and released from death row since 1973. 1,540 people have been executed in the U.S. since 1973, and for 1 in every 9 people executed, 1 person in death row has been exonerated. And
no, we did it, but thank you for bringing this up because that was the next thing.
Oh, okay, cool. And this, so it goes on and talks about the fact that the same factors that drive wrongful convictions and in non-capital case and death penalty cases, including in erroneous eyewitness identifications, false and coerced confessions, inadequate legal defense, false or misleading forensic evidence, false accusations or perjury by witnesses who are promised lenient treatment or other incentives in exchange for their testimony. And I'm going to share that real fast. Okay. And where's that? Okay, added to the stream. All right. And I need to zoom in.
Please, for the blind among us.
Yeah, I'll let me zoom in. This is the worst question because I do IT work. I'm about to be like, how does one zoom in on? Sorry, that's all the code. Ooh. Okay. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. So there's the numbers for the exoneration. There's the exoneration numbers and the execution numbers that we're going over. And here are all the a lot of the factors that drive wrong penalty cases. And it said a record 111 exonerations in 2018 involved witnesses who lied on the stand or falsely accused the defendant. And in 50 of these cases, the defendant was falsely accused of a crime that never even happened.
Wait, hold up. So a crime, they were accused of a crime, nothing happened. How did they find evidence? How did they anything based off of it? This was just somebody pointing at them and said that person did it, and that was the end of the case.
I think so, and a lot of them come. A lot of it is about going into it. It goes into the misconduct of the police and the fact that a lot of times and the prosecutor as well. I was watching. There was this thing. It's called Skip Intro. They're on YouTube, and it's this actually just one dude, and this guy's like he did a whole series about cops and whatnot, and he was just talking about the fact that if the prosecutor generally if they get a grand jury, if the prosecutor wants whatever the prosecutor wants is what's going to happen. So if the prosecutor's gung-ho about like death penalty and about like sending them off for like a long time for something that wasn't even a big deal, like that, the judge and the grand jury is usually going to go with whatever they want. So so a lot of the misconduct and a lot of the stuff comes from the prosecutors too, because it's their job to put people away, so they got to make a buck for that.
I wonder, you don't have to answer this, but I wonder how many of these cases can be tied to election years, because often in elected prosecutors and judges, they have to show that they're tough on crime.
Ooh, that is a good question. Oh, and here this answers your other question. It says, which includes police officers threatening witnesses with forensic analysts faking test results and prosecutors presenting false testimony. So it's a slew of like shit. And it's and it was like Comrade Gay was saying, it's a system, because it's like they pay people. You have people who get like bullied into doing it's a mafia. People are paid off, and then like the people who can pay it off get out, and the people who can't usually get put behind bars. And a lot of times it's people who didn't even do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you scroll down a little farther, it says that data shows that 87% of Black exonerees who were sentenced to death were victims of official misconduct, compared to 67% of white death row exonerees. Race is no factor.
Not at all. Then let's go. We have another one, because I know Noli was talking about the Innocence Project a couple minutes ago, and there's a tab in here. I'm going to share this tab instead, and there's the recording of false confessions and recording of custodial interrogations. So why would someone want to just be like, hey, I did this, even though they didn't? Well, some factors could include real or perceived intimidation of the suspect by law enforcement, use of force by law enforcement during the interrogation or perceived threat of force, compromised reasoning ability of the suspect due to exhaustion, stress, hunger, substance abuse, and in some cases mental limitations or limited education, which in that case 81% of false confessions are usually from people who are a little bit slower or have mental issues. So that is another thing. And young people who don't understand their rights and are taught to please authority figures are also particularly vulnerable.
Which we should never be taught that.
Yeah, children are not taught their rights in school like they should be.
I know.
And they do it on
very
purpose.
true.
They do it on purpose.
Plus, a lot of the way they bring people in, it's sometimes it's not made absolutely clear as an interrogation. Oh, you're just being in here to answer a few questions, blah, 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 blah. Oh, this is, fine, normal. And people will often waive their right to an attorney, which is, no, don't do that.
The devious interrogation techniques, such as untrue statements or the presence of incriminating. So they're like, we got you. We have all the evidence on you, buddy. And it's like, they don't have anything. And they're like, it's just like, it's messed up. And the fear of the suspect.
And it's legal to lie about evidence during interrogation, where in most other countries it's not.
They have changed that, but only for the juveniles.
Oh, well, only for kids.
I was actually listening
people
to
who have no rights.
I was listening to a podcast. Like I was listening to something with police earlier about like this. It was this little girl that was murdered, and the dad and the grandfather were both pretty much. They got to the interrogation, got to the point where they were pitting them against each other, and had them where the son was just crying. They had the son interrogating his dad about things. It was like next level. But it's not anything. It's not. That's just recorded. So I mean, that happens all the time. like where people are just like, you have like two people who didn't do anything, and then they just get torn apart to one of them was like, well, he did it, and they make up something. There's a lot of like false confessions where it's just like, holy shit, they just like beat the shit out of somebody until they said yeah. Because a normal person, if they get beat down enough and they're not ready to like be like, they don't have any mental fortitude, they definitely are gonna get like taken over by like these bullies who are just like have them in a room for like hours upon end.
Yeah.
And this goes through some of the benefits to the innocent, creating a record of the entire interrogation, including the interaction leading up to the confession, ensuring that suspects' rights are protected in the interrogation process, creating a deterrent against improper coercive techniques that might be employed against. I would like to just see some abolishment. But anyway, how much has been like talked about Marcio that we get off of that? Like, because I'm just trying to catch up a little bit because my internet was messing up.
We talked about the events leading up to the trial, the new trial, the state of execution, and the other things going around it.
Okay. Yeah, and did you pull the video too?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
The news video that you asked for.
Okay. So we watched it already. That already happened.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I'm sorry. I was going for like 20 minutes, so I'm just trying to catch up. All right. Well, if it's cool with y'all want to move on to the next subject?
Well, on to our latest subject,
which is pretty much the same subject. It's like police, corruption in the DOJ and the police system. But
can we talk about how TV shows often glorify the police? And the only TV show I've actually seen where police are shown at their nastiest is a show called Paradise on Netflix, where they're shown to be the abusive, awful people that they actually are.
Oh man,
we can talk about. I mean, that's Copaganda. Like, that's exactly what that is. We were. I was after a while. I was like looking. I was like, I should just get a bunch of like police shows, and we can just like go over those. But then I forgot about the fact that YouTube would probably just flag us.
You guys remember how in any cartoon ever, when a cop arrests somebody, they will yell at them and say, "You have the right to remain silent," as if that means, don't talk, you're not allowed to talk. They distorted the right to remain silent so much. It's like, no, you have the right to not say shit because they're going to extract a false confession out of you, call your attorney. That's what it means. But they turned it into something to fear, right?
Exactly. That's very true. The other thing, like the in the shows, like it makes the fact that the confession is like straight up the end all be all. After the confession happens, nothing else matters. Like, even though there's a whole process, but that's for the public opinion will be like, that's how public opinion works. If you just think someone's guilty because they said so, or just because a bunch of people are like screens are telling you, you're probably more likely to believe that. Everybody is saying hello to Noli in here in the chat.
Noli is very popular.
Yeah. No one ever does this for us.
That's not true. I say hi, you guys.
Huh? What'd you say? What did y'all say?
No, I say hi every time I come in. I'm always happy to see you guys.
Let's see. Well, I thought I guess we can go to this. I watched this video before I got on. It was the one we're watching, the one from what's his name? The Jonesboro police officer. So yeah, pretty much I'm gonna pull up this video, and it doesn't really show anything, which is awesome because the guy decided to. Okay. I'm trying to open this up in a different tab, but for some reason it opened up in Google Drive, which is weird. Okay, open link.
Today's video will be heavily censored and redacted due to its
Can y'all hear that?
extremely graphic nature. If you would like to see the full, incredibly disturbing video, a link is in the description and the pinned comment below. I will show you parts of this interaction to show what led up to the murder, but I will not show the part of the video where a Jonesboro, Arkansas police officer executes a man by holding a gun to the back of his head and squeezing the trigger twice. The one thing that almost everybody seems to be missing about this story is that from the very beginning, this officer never had a legal or lawful right to detain his victim. But we will talk about that as the video plays out. The story begins on February 9th, 2022, when Officer Corey Obregon sees a man walking down the street and decides that he just wants to talk to him for no particular reason. He states that he's out doing drug interdiction and community policing, just trying to get to know people in the neighborhood.
We're just doing a little bit of drug interdiction in the area. We're just trying to get to know people also, a little bit of community policing, okay? Do what? Hey, come here. Come here. I can smell marijuana off you. Come here.
Oh, you're lying.
Come here.
You're lying.
Come here.
No.
Hey, come here.
Smell marijuana,
Come here.
Now, let's first go after the lowest hanging fruit here. Even if this officer does smell marijuana, it could be coming from any of the houses on this street. It should be noted that no calls about any suspicious activity or criminal activity were made. Officer Obregon decided out of nowhere to try to stop this random person. At first, he states that he's just trying to do community policing and get to know people. That would make this a consensual encounter. But when his victim chose not to consent to a conversation with him, he started trying to fabricate reasonable, articulable suspicion by claiming that his victim smelled like marijuana. Now, while there is case law saying that the smell of marijuana is not probable cause for a search, I'm not aware of any case law saying that the odor of marijuana is not reasonable, articulable suspicion for a stop. Marijuana is legal in the state of Arkansas. Therefore, what crime could possibly be afoot just because you smell marijuana? Marijuana is only legal medically in Arkansas, so you are supposed to have a medical card in order to use or carry it. But I would also like to point out that in order to drive in Arkansas, you're supposed to have a driver's license. That doesn't mean that cops have RAS to stop every single person they see driving and check for a license. In states where you have to have a license to carry a handgun, police are not allowed to stop you just because you have a gun to check if you have a license. So why would it make any sense that in a state where you can legally have marijuana, that police would have the right to stop you and make you prove that you can legally have it?
What are
Come
you
here,
doing?
I will tell you. Come here.
No, you're
Come
making
here.
me nervous.
In a matter of seconds, this Jonesboro police officer went from trying to get to know people in the community to making false accusations to chasing a man down the street and tackling him. After tackling his victim, he begins patting him down and is heard saying, "If that's a gun, this isn't going to end well for you." Seconds later, a gunshot goes off and the officer claims that he's been shot in the leg. Both the officer and his victim were on the ground when the shot went off. The officer is on top of his victim and has full control over him.
It's literally his
is
fault.
able to reach for his radio with one hand while fully controlling his victim with the other hand. The officer retrieves his own firearm while the victim is laying on the pavement with his back to the officer. He raises his gun to the back of the victim, firing one shot into the back of his neck and one into the back of his head. The Jonesboro Police Department took only a couple of days to investigate themselves and find that they did nothing wrong. Marijuana won't kill you, but prohibition will. It should also be noted that no marijuana was actually found on the victim. As of right now, it appears that this officer is going to get away with one of the most cold-blooded murders I've ever seen. Link to the incredibly disturbing, age-restricted, uncut video is in the description and the pinned comment below.
Holy shit!
I'm gonna go ahead and let Comrade K start this off because I saw so many reactions during the.
Marijuana is legal in the state of Arkansas, and he thinks he could just stop a guy and question if he has marijuana. Okay, so what?
You clearly haven't been to Arkansas.
What the fuck? He's just walking. I'm just gonna put this out there, all right? You are not entitled to a conversation with someone just because you want to. All right, if that guy decides to just, if it wasn't a cop and it was just a regular guy saying, "Hey, I want to talk to you," and the other guy goes, "No, I want to go home," that's completely reasonable and respectful. If I want to go home, fucking leave me alone. That badge on your uniform doesn't change that. It doesn't make you morally above anyone else. Second, he
changed his reason mid when he was pulling. He was like, "I'm just meeting some people in the community."
Just meeting some people in the community. All right, that was a great first impression you left, officer. Just chases after this guy, which, by the way, I know the guy was like talking and explaining like the laws and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure that encounter happened very fast. He goes from telling this guy, "I'm just a community officer," to chasing the fucker down in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, because we were getting that shit. It was pausing for us, so that was a matter of like 1 minute, like maybe
1 minute. Gets on top of him. If that's a gun, it's not going to end well for you. What do you mean? You're going to kill him if you find a gun? Apparently not, because you just killed him anyway. I guess he executed that man. He straight up killed him. Let's be honest.
And that was the first. That was the first time I've seen that. Like, I haven't seen that video until that.
Yeah, let's be completely honest with ourselves.
That was covered.
He decided to kill him for not stopping to speak to him. That was a murder. We didn't find any wrongdoing.
That was covered on local news for like 1 day after a protest.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that I'm on the same page with you, Comrade K. That was a straight up execution, and that was not justified in any type of way. Like, first off, he just gives him a fake ass reason for like being like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And then you said it was not even a whole minute, and he started chasing him for no reason. He's like, "I went to the store," and he's just like, "I want to see that." And he's like, "Who cares if it smells like weed?" And just like the videos that could have been coming from anywhere. You saw a black dude walking, and you're just like, I went and looked. I was like, Peyton, blah blah blah. It's like, of course, he just sees a black dude walking in the middle of Arkansas, and then he decides to go hunting like it's some fucking game.
It's not his business. Like, if someone's walking home with a bag late at night, it's none of your fucking business. Mind your own business.
And that's a prime example of the police state here. Like, it's just like, it's not to protect, it's literally just to like chase people down or put them in jail so they can
land of the free.
Like, how is he protecting anybody? He literally, like, dude was just walking home. Like,
he wanted to like protect that community. He wanted to let that community know that, you know, he was there to protect them. Yeah, what better way to do that than to just shoot the first guy you see in that community? That was one.
And to letting the community know that he's in control. Like,
yeah,
it's
psychos. My God, ACAB all the way, man. I don't fucking care anymore. That shit was awful. And what really boils my blood is that all the officers come and shit like that. And the guy said the department opened an investigation and found that they did no wrongdoing.
Oh yeah, that of course. That's the cherry on top. It's like, we investigated ourselves and we didn't find any wrongdoings.
Like the meme of like Obama putting the medal on himself. That's what it is.
And the investigation only took 3 days.
3 days.
3 days.
3 days.
That dude's still in the streets.
He killed him.
Yeah.
That guy's on the streets. They didn't even say anything about him getting like. They didn't even say he got suspended with pay or like he went to work the next shift.
3 days. Do they have such bad internet at the police department that video was buffering for 3 straight days? Because you could just look at that and be like, yeah, the guy's fucking guilty. He just shot him. It's video.
The body cams don't matter if they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like it hasn't ever. Like it was just another reform that fell to the wayside, proving that reform is not the pathway.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You're going to see so many people saying, "Oh, we don't have like all the information. We don't have."
Dude, in the past 38 years, over 30,000 people have been killed by police, and over half of them were incorrectly classified. So A coroner doesn't have to
it's like so.
They don't have to put down in the death certificate that cops were involved in this person's death.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so there are many more that are unaccounted for across the nation. 30,000 people in 38 years have been killed.
That's like a mini genocide. Like that's literally going hunting and killing. That is hunting and killing
that
people
is exactly
purposely.
what that is.
That's not.
They're just psychopaths with badges. They're given guns and badges and authority to just hunt whoever they want.
And just like I'm gonna steal something from Amir real fast because Amir, you always bring up the fact, and as long as there's police unions, that ain't gonna change because those unions protect the hell out of each other. Like it is insane.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that was a big part of the Ahmaud Arbery case was just and it's very similar to this interaction of he didn't want to do what, I can't remember the guy's name right now. He didn't want to do what he was being told to do because the guy wasn't a police officer and he was just going for a jog and is getting, antagonized while he's just trying to, live his life basically. And it was very similar to this interaction. I haven't seen this before, but I kept thinking of the Arbery case and how that father and son just both felt like they had every right to demand that this man stop, that he listen to what they say, and that because he's not listening to them, they have every right to use deadly force to make him stop. And it's like you said, Z, about police unions, that's a really big issue across the country because these bargaining agreements that police officers make with their unions, it helps protect them in instances just like this so that they don't have the correct oversight. And if they do, they can go on administrative leave that's likely paid. And then they ultimately are brought back. This was such a blatant killing. This is like a lynching right in front of us, a modern day lynching. And there's so many areas where the justice, quote unquote, system needs to be dealt with because we have so many of these issues and police are just running roughshod and thinking that they can do whatever the hell they want because they're being allowed to do whatever the hell they want because the system allows them to do so.
I wanted to share
this. The system is made to protect itself. So if you are part of the system, another part of the system is going to be there to have your back, to keep you from having to pay any consequences for your actions.
Very true.
That's so true. I wanted to bring up the fact that this is from the Washington Post. Take it as you will. Bezos news. But police shot and killed at least 1,055 people nationwide last year. That's insane, and that was in 2021. That was a year after all the protests, and then it's ironic that they're like, oh, there's a rise in crime, and it's let's keep giving. It's I've just been seeing a shit ton of police violence. It's I get scared when I hear a siren. I was already freaking out when I was hearing a siren, but now it's just God damn. But
yeah, it is. There's definitely more police. There's always been a lot of police where I lived. In college and everything, and the police do not make you feel safer. The more that you see them, the scarier it gets, and it's just because they're not here to protect you. They're here to kill
property.
You.
They are here to protect businesses.
Exactly. They're here to protect property.
Business owners, and that's it.
And Reefer After Dark says words are not strong enough to explain my anger to the cops, and I agree.
Yeah,
every time I see that every time I see that, it's just
bastards. Just nothing. Just I have nothing else to say. Bastards. That's what these people are. What else can I say here? 1,055 people a year. It's in that year. It said how many people
they
is that
took it
a
upon
day?
themselves to act as judge, jury, and executioner. They were just I'm going he's guilty. That's literally
that's
almost
almost 4 people. That's a little over 3 people a day.
Christ. So why do we think that giving these psychos more money is going to reduce crime? You reduce crime by elevating people out of poverty and giving them what they need. You do not reduce crime by giving more money to the psychos with guns that run around and shoot people or tackle them or abuse them whenever the hell they feel like it.
But
that is counterintuitive.
I want to add to, and I want to. The only thing I want to add. Oh, I was like, what happened to him here? Okay. But all I wanted to add was the fact that, yeah, you're right. The reason that we keep giving these psychos guns because the people who are giving the psycho guns are the people who have nuclear weapons, who the psychos who have nuclear weapons. And so they keep giving these psychos with guns. And then also it's just one big 3-ring circus. It's like, it's insane because it's all like connected. Like it looks the same way we police here is the same way we just shoot like any person in any country we're invading or just bomb it. There's like no difference in the way we police in the way our military action is. It's all one innate.
Oh my God, this is heartbreaking. And you know what? At this point, I think advocating for people to like the Tenacious Unicorn Ranch, they had to like tell the cops to screw off quite a few times because they had, property and whatnot. Cops, unfortunately, they do exist, like you guys said, to serve the interests of the ruling class, to serve property. I think at this point, the only way we could protect ourselves from the police or anyone, leftists, people of any sort of marginalized group that's targeted by police, I see communes maybe being a way to curb like violence against them if people are able to create communities where they themselves are protected and safe and no one needs to worry about the cops at all, because this is just becoming out of control. We need to give people places where they can go to escape these psychos, man. This is ridiculous.
I think that a lot of citizens who are well-minded should be arming themselves appropriately for self-defense when they need to. So even if they do get taken out, they still send the message when they get taken out. Because that's the only reason, because they know they can, because there's nothing there to be a vanguard. There's nothing there as a vanguard or to send a message out and being like, you can't do this. But that's its own thing down the road. So
my only issue with the communes idea, I as a whole support communes very fervently, is the fact that whenever people go into organized communities, they set themselves out from the world around them.
The government would Waco.
Yeah,
say no, you're from Texas.
Like I had siblings that were alive during that day that they had friends, who had a relative that was in Waco, and hearing stories about that growing up. So communes are good, but you got to make sure that nobody can find you.
That's true. And I mean, yeah, Waco had they had their problems, but they definitely did not deserve to be like burned alive in a fucking that was inhumane.
They could have grabbed him at any time when he was in town, and they didn't.
Exactly.
They purposely waited. They said that it had to be a stalemate for some reason because they had to take guns. That was complete crap. They purposely waited. They purposely waited to send a message to people, not to organize, not to try to create your own committees, not to go against the ruling order.
They always know what they're doing. It's like, have you guys heard of Move?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They literally bombed like a black commune in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Just bombed it like a actual bomb. Like it's just like, holy shit, that was in the 80s. It's like,
which is why I suggest to any would-be commune people out there, there's plenty of mountains where there is they're easy to get lost in, with undiscovered species, stuff like that. You might want to take a veil on that.
Arm up, defend yourselves.
Himalayan commune would be awesome. But yeah, I just it's like I want to say it. Kate said it's out of control, and it's just it needs to stop. And we have a couple more stories. We have like another story from the Baltimore Sun. as well. And give me 1 second because I'm trying to find out how to get this YouTube link still on my Google Drive for some reason. But let me see. Share screen again. There's a lot of share screens today. Okay, here it is. Actually, I don't think this was not the article I was trying to share. I was trying to share the here it is. Huh. Okay, here it is. So, off-duty cop arrested after man killed while on sidewalk. And this happened in, I guess it happened in Seattle, but it says Auburn police say a 33-year-old off-duty officer with their agency was arrested after he reportedly hit and killed a pedestrian in Seattle's Interbay neighborhood. And it said it happened around 11 p.m. They got a call. Jesus. It says the man was driving on north at a high rate of speed when he passed another vehicle, lost control, and drove onto the sidewalk, hitting and killing the man. The driver was processed for DUI and booked into the King County Jail, and it turned out to be a police, apparently. Political cartoons. Damn. Okay, yeah, so apparently a cop had was off duty, having a good time. I don't know what they were doing. They were speeding, and they lost control of their car.
He just fast and furious right into a guy on the sidewalk.
And he was drunk. But that just sounds like...
So cops are supposed to be better than everybody else. They fucking are. But even suggesting like the liberal idea that cops are supposed to be better than everybody else, like they're supposed to be these moral, upright people, and there are a few bad apples, and blah, 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 blah. One, there's a lot of bad apples, which would make me suggest that the whole harvest is rotten and you might want to replant those trees with something else. Two, that why are the apples causing to be rotten in the first place? And it doesn't seem like simply coloring them so the rotten parts aren't showing or cutting out the parts where the worms bit into them is going to make a difference. You know? Like, this is... Cops are like, don't speed, don't do all this stuff, and then as soon as they get off shift, they're doing the same crap that people do. Yet they get so much more leniency. The life of a cop is worth so much more than an average person.
But it's
there was a video of like cops pulling into like people weren't putting their signals on, and then they were just like pulling people over, and then as soon as they got off work, they were just doing the same thing. It was like,
yeah, well, I don't mean that their lives are better. They're not, but a lot of them seem to think that they are. And a lot of people in the media seem to think that they are. And it's really infuriating because this is where this kind of crap comes from.
Well, and it's part of why this system is meant to do what it's doing, which is protecting itself. They protect the police and they laud them up and put them on this pedestal, acting like they're better than everyone else when they're not. They're breaking the laws just as much, if not more so. And then they protect each other when they break the law, when they kill someone blatantly right in front of everyone and it's being filmed on cameras. And so it's part of this protection system that's in place that's not meant to protect us, the individuals, that they love to say, this is what police are for. No, it's to protect the white upper elite class and their property and their homes and the sanctity that they want in their little suburbia awesomeness. And it's leaving the rest of us to like, where like if you're black or brown, you're afraid of the police. Like you don't want to call the cops when something's happening because you could very well be killed or harassed or just like have your complete life threatened if you call them and you're
someone
the one
has to like
help.
Literally be dying from calling 911. Like it's like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Usually it's like, I'm not gonna be here when you. I'll call a cop for you, but I'm gonna dip.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna bounce. I'm out of here.
You mind if I dip? You know we're good friends though, but you know I'm out.
Yeah,
but,
it's awful.
It's
It
terrible.
is, and I completely agree with y'all.
And we should definitely. I think we'll probably have to continue more on this topic on another one though. Like I think that we should like extend this because this is like one of those topics that we can talk about for we can keep talking about but we wanted to before we wanted to go over another subject that's very 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 tender before we sign off today, and it was the self-immolation that happened outside of the White House. And I didn't want to originally. We weren't going to. We're not going to share anything because there's enough of that online already. You can go find that wherever you want if you want to, but we're not going to do that here. We're going to just watch a. Let me see. What happened to? I had a video that I wanted to share, but it was a lot. It was more like it was very sweet. It was almost like a eulogy, but it wasn't a complete eulogy, but it just laid out what he was doing and why he did it. And let me see. I think it was from the New York Post, which is not, the best of all sources, but they do things. And sometimes they aren't completely sensational assholes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
Is it that broken clock thing?
Exactly.
Okay, I see you're thinking.
Here we go.
Is something supposed to be happening? I'm a little confused.
Me too.
Yeah, it was. I just started sitting there. I see that on the screen. It's just like I'm just sitting there. I'm like, but I was watching the video. I'm sorry.
Can we watch it too?
Okay. Yeah. I'll share. Here you go. This is where I got before I shared. Now,
I'm so glad that they're actually covering that. At least one place is covering this the way it should be covered.
Exactly, and that's why I wanted people to see that, because I thought that they actually covered it well. Because that act of selflessness in Buddhism, that would be an act of selflessness. Even though in when we see it, I mean, he took his life, but he was doing it to set. It was like the self-immolation in the what was it? Was it Vietnam?
Vietnam.
Yeah.
And in Tibet.
Mm-hmm. The only thing that I hate about this one is that I pray that it has impact, like to at least some people, because I know people would just be like, oh, some dude just killed himself, whatever, just set himself on fire.
Well, that's why people like us are here, right?
Exactly, and that's why we're here to tell it how it is. And
one of the things that's related to this, he was wanting to bring attention to the earth. The earth is literally on fire due to our actions, and we need to restore balance to it. According to the UN Secretary General, this actually came out earlier this week. We have until the end of this year to start making substantive changes to curb emissions, or we enter a climate collapse that we do not recover from. God.
Not so much we, but our children, our nieces, our nephews, the people who are little right now, they're going to suffer greatly because we're not forcing the powers that be to do what we want.
Right. I definitely agree. Like right now in Pakistan, for example, it's 122 degrees Fahrenheit, which means if you guys,
are gonna die.
That's so hot.
And they do not have access to fans there. do you know that what happens to your body if the temperature gets above normal body temperature? And when you start sweating at first, but if it gets too hot, you can't even sweat. So it causes organ failure, and you literally burn and broil from the inside because of how hot it is. This is why people die of heat stroke across the world, and how incredibly dangerous it is. It is a horrible way to die, and we are bringing it upon ourselves, upon the least fortunate, and among the children and the ones that come after us because of our refusal to act. We have to do something.
Well said, Novi. I agree. I think that it is sad. It's sad that people, I mean, what was it? They've known about this almost for like 70 years almost. And like, they've just been concocting. They knew that they were just destroying the planet the whole time. And, but I mean, the way they treat people, obviously they don't need, if something can't speak back to it, they would just like destroy it as much as possible and just like pillage it. And it's depressing.
Well, I'm actually covering this as some topic on my show, Live from the Empire, which had its first episode last week. We're covering the oil crisis and how that's going to continue, and how oil companies are actually preventing green technologies from being born that could help alleviate this and help prevent climate catastrophe. So we're talking about stuff like this. And one of the things that's frustrating is that we have the ability, we have the knowledge to create energies that are renewable, that are affordable to people, that to create vehicles and public transit that could actually reduce our carbon footprint and help save people's lives in the long run. But we refuse to do it because it is more important for short-term gains for a handful of the richest people in the world to help everybody else.
In our awesome suburbia.
Yes.
How are we going to have our awesome suburbia if we change to green energy and cities aren't just giant sprawls where you have to go outside of the city and drive all the way and use gas? You can just walk to where you need to. What about suburbia though?
Right. I would definitely recommend, if you're wanting to talk about the climate collapse and talking about some things that you could do in your area, look at the Reddit thing, fuck cars, because they talk about okay, some of it's a tongue in cheek, but they actually talk about things about pushing renewable energies and pushing their city councils and stuff to make things so that they're more walkable, make things that are more green energy, working on a collective effort. So that's actually something that you could do, and being aware of this and being aware and fighting against this, because this is a problem that is going to happen. It's going, and like Noli said, it's going to affect our children, it's going to affect our nieces, nephews, grandchildren, and it's going to affect us. So, if for no other reason,
at least they would be able to maybe able to run or something. Might be like too old to do anything.
At least from the interest of self-preservation, we should all try to do something.
And then people be like, why is it so hot? Why is it so cold? Why is it like fucking, a snowstorm in the middle of June? It's like because the climate is being destroyed. What there was a fire. There was a firestorm on the ocean last year. What more pictures? What more evidence do you need?
Right. And 70% of pollution is created by corporations. So individual, let's recycle. Let's do these one little things aren't going to do something. Things like switching over to green energy, having better infrastructure, taxing these companies into oblivion and trying to get them to go to green energy. That's some things that we could do.
And not that green, plastic straw bullshit. Like actual, green, like actual change, not this greenwashing wave that everybody's trying to ride on because it's like liberal and trendy. No, actual sustainability, not just changing to fucking what type of straw you use.
Right. So take courage in Mr. Wynn's sacrifice and his compassion, and try to instill that for the fight, to fight for things such as a future in which people can live in, a place where people aren't being arrested with just cause or being killed by some asshole on the street, and where Melissa Luciano actually gets to see her kids again.
For real. Did you hear what they're doing here in Washington? The governor has made it to where here soon it will be illegal to sell vehicles that run on gasoline or diesel. But the thing is as expensive as the electric cars are, they're not going to do a damn thing for the average person who doesn't make $300,000-$400,000 a year, because those cars run what, 120, 150,000.
Exactly. There's no incentive to like do that. It's there's no incentive to like, if you're gonna take something away, you got to replace it with something or some kind of like, you know, you could be like, like it's easy to be like, bring in these cars so we can just, and then we'll give you this ticket or this fucking like credit. Like there's never any like give back. We always just got to give to them, and they always just take from us. We never have
And for our next in our next series on the show, we're going to be talking about that. And like fossil fuel companies buying off things like for green energy, guess what automobile companies have been doing? With withholding patents and stuff in order to make vehicles that would run cleanly and be safe and be affordable for everybody, no matter what their income level, have been holding away that information, giving away pieces and pieces of time, but only at a premium.
Patents are a crazy type of warfare. Like, that's like one of those types of things like you don't usually think about, but then like there's so many inventors who have made like crazy shit, and then like the government just comes in and be like, yeah, we bought the rights to this thing.
Yeah.
It's dirty out. It's dirty here.
It is. So,
Comrade K, did you have something to say?
Only if everyone else has done their takes, because all right. So the topic of climate change is always a very depressing one, because we throw around a lot of terms, right? And a lot of those terms allude to the end of human civilization. Now, I'm just going to say it. A lot of people will keep going like, why aren't we in the streets? Why aren't we rioting? Why aren't we overthrowing the government? Why aren't we taking off the heads of these people who provide 75% of the planet's pollution? I'm sorry, but everyone who talks about this needs to understand that that's not going to happen as fast as we want it to. When we look back on history, what really triggered socialism worldwide to start being ushered in was World War I and the absolute catastrophic worldwide event that was. It was unprecedented. It was apocalyptic. And it triggered socialist revolutions to happen all over the world, right? From that point. Now, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to go through something like that again, because history has always shown that it takes when people are literally eating rats for breakfast that they actually go out and do something. Now, I'm not going to be saying that that's going to be us, but
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
You're not wrong, though.
And Comrade K, before you keep going, we've never had like propaganda this level. Like they could have us eating a shoe. Some people eating a shoe, and they'd be like, "Oh, this is good. At least we don't have it worse than some other people." Yeah,
it's a very high threshold. All this bullshit of recycling and using paper straws and buy a Tesla. By the way, electric cars aren't even that clean, because getting the materials to make the batteries and shit for your electric cars is a whole other.
All the nickel comes from Russia.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And let's not forget about that lithium.
Let's not forget about lithium, Bolivia. Now, I don't want to leave people with no hope, but we need to be very real with ourselves. We're not going to have a fucking socialist revolution in time to stop the climate crisis. And I'm sorry for us who are looking at these articles. It feels like every single year, the scientists give us one extra year to give us a little bit of hope that, we could maybe pull this around at the last second. And it feeds into our sense of, we want security. So when we see an article that every single year that's like, we have this long, we have this long, we have this long, we extend the deadline and we make ourselves feel comfortable. Like someone will come along, someone will get elected, someone will do something. No one's fucking coming to help you. We passed the point of no return a long time ago. Any socialist revolution that occurs in the West and transforms our economy to function way more green, guess what? That's going to be to cope with climate destruction. It will not stop it. You're not going to stop climate destruction. any socialist from this point forward should be preparing to make human society cope with the horrible effects of climate change. We're not going to avoid this. This is our punishment for destroying the earth. This is our punishment for being complicit in the destruction of this planet.
And it's not like it hasn't already started. It's not like it hasn't already started.
Yeah, it's already started in a lot of places.
We just haven't we've been seeing it too. We've just been ignoring it. We've been seeing it with our hurricanes. We've been seeing it with all the weather we've been having. But like, I mean, we have refugees here. We have climate refugees, and it's just gonna get worse. But we just deny those people, and for the most part, we just tell people here in our news that they're just people who are just trying to who just like our way of life and trying to take it and shit.
Yeah,
and this is people that we've destroyed. We destroyed the earth so much and destroyed and not just destroyed the earth. We destroyed their cultures and their land, and then that's why they're coming over here. But we don't talk about that.
Yeah. All this talk about what's going to happen to humanity and all that kind of stuff, we need to put that aside. Will humanity have a future on this planet in 200, 300, 400 years from now? Who fucking knows? Who knows if, the revolutions that we have to overthrow the ruling class will be enough? But you know what? We have to focus on doing it anyway. We have to try, if anything else. Do not let this infect your heart with hopelessness. So continue to organize, continue to be, the activist that you are, continue to protest and agitate. And my thoughts go out to everyone who was affected by that horrible, what happened at the Capitol. My thoughts go out to his family and his friends. I wish he didn't feel like it had to come to that.
Exactly.
Because I would prefer if amazing climate activists like that live to see another day. So
it's like we need you.
Yeah, we need you. Why are you doing that? But it was really sad seeing him do that. But I get it. In the context of him,
and I think that's why I want to share that specific video, because I think they did the way his friend and everything, they had those posts. It's true. Like, it was still like it sucked. He was sacrificing. He was doing it. It was a sight. It was a spectacle. So, but unfortunately, in our society, the only thing people pay attention to are spectacles.
Yeah, which is why we have to take up the responsibility of making sure that he is still talked about, people remember his name and his cause, and the reason why he did what he did is not forgotten. It may not be covered by big conglomerates like CNN, and his name may not be on every billboard at Times Square, even though he deserves to be, but it's up to us to keep his name alive at some level anyway. So everyone in the comment section of this video, or anyone watching this, please remember that man and all his friends and his family.
Thank you for all the new watchers, by the way.
Yeah.
Call out to Oregon Rogue, Reefer After Dark, Tender Lungs 206. I know how that can be. Patriot Defense, Ryan LG100, Black Ice, and Austin.
Hell yeah, Austin.
Hey, y'all. Thank you for watching. And
Amira.
What?
Amira, did you have any closing thoughts on it? You hadn't spoken in a while.
Oh, I mean, I love your guys' chats because I learned so much tonight. It makes me think a lot. One of the things Noli mentioned about Washington making it, like illegal to sell a vehicle in how long? Is that? Sorry, I don't mean to put you on.
I think it's
spot.
I'll look really quick.
Well, it made me think about, like, okay, so you're going to restrict the sale of cars that require gasoline and favor electrical vehicles, but you're not going to do anything about the price differential that puts on people, because a lot of people live in apartments. Some people are homeless. So it's like, if they use their vehicle as their home, how are they then going to be able to, like, charge it up? Okay, so by 2030, so in a little less than 10 years.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe their plan is to do UBI and raise the minimum wage to something that's actually commensurate with the cost of living.
And that's another thing. Like, people are going to get pushed out of the market when it comes to vehicles because they can't afford electric vehicles, just like people are getting pushed out of the housing market because they can't afford homes, to the point where now, like, prefab homes are over $100,000. Like, just to
Just so
build it.
crazy.
That's
just
before you
yes.
purchase the land and you do everything that you need to do. So
Yeah,
it's just like
and
we have this system that's just, it's pushing everyone out of the market, and it's just segmenting us into an even further of, we have the people at the top and then everyone else is at the bottom and is
It's
being
like
seriously affected.
Blackstones everywhere. Like
Exactly.
like they're one of the main culprits. I don't want, the only reason I want to say that real fast is because they own so much stuff. Not just, it's like they're in talks to buy Ubisoft.
Oh, wow.
I mean, Assassin's Creed has gone downhill already, but it can go further. Just saying.
Why? Why do they need Ubisoft?
Well, and this whole thing with the climate crisis, honestly, there's, I believe it's real. Like, there's a lot of shit that we're doing, that we're putting into the atmosphere that's seriously affecting our climate and our earth. And there's a lot that we need to be doing. But I think that too much emphasis is being put on, everyday people, when it's very big corporations like Amazon and then the military industrial complex. Like, they are the reason why our climate crisis is the way that it is. That's number one. And then number two, our planet goes through natural cycles, like a 12,000 year cycle, like a 50,000 year, 120,000 year, and then like a 300,000 year cycle. And these are things that really don't get talked about in mainstream at all. Just recently, some mainstream outlets were talking about the sun and the solar activity that's happening with the sun rays and how that's affecting the planet and things like that. But they're keeping it very low key. It's like the Disney version of cosmic weather. And that is something that I'm learning about myself. And there's a lot there that people do not understand because we're not being taught this, because it's something that they do not want to talk about. They do not want to talk about ancient civilizations that were around, 12,000 years ago that saw a serious devastating event happen that we are very likely on the precipice of seeing ourselves because of our climate crisis that's expediting all of these issues. So when it comes to the climate crisis, there's so much stuff that goes on in my head because it's like, it's seriously affecting us on an everyday level, but we have corporations and militaries that exacerbate it. And then we have just the realization of there is a cosmic situation going on that we are not educated on, that they hide a lot of. There's even like YouTube channels that are being shadow banned because they don't want this kind of information divulged, because it goes against the narrative of what our real climate crisis is. So sorry to lay down a whole lot right there, but that's what's been going on in my head as you guys have been chatting.
No, I completely agree with you on that, Amira, and that's one of the reasons why coverage, we have to, explain it in depth, and we have to talk about this, because when I was talking about like how we need to continue to fight, I wasn't just saying, individual things, but we have to band together. We have to, work, fight against these corporations, fight against the military industrial complex, take them down. Like, it absolutely has to happen because they're causing so many of these problems. To the extent that humans can control this, corporations are causing a lot of these problems, and we need to fight against the corporations and those in power, and warriors as well. And we can't grow complacent about it, and we shouldn't feel hopeless about it, because that's just what those in power want us to feel.
That's not my intention at all. Voice of reason. I totally hear you. I don't mean to belittle all of our attempts that we're doing. I recycle. I have reusable straws. Like, I get it. Like, it sucks, but we get lied to a lot. We get told a lot of things.
Damn it, the carbon footprint is not real. No, but
there's so many other elements to these things that we discuss that we feel. Like, we feel this every day. The drought in California, the fires going all around, the hurricanes that are increasing, and tornadoes that are getting more intense. I mean, these are all real things.
You're just pointing out that there's more that can be done than just, like plastic straws. Like, those things make people feel good, but there are things that they can actually be like furthered, like how California's saving, like having to save water, and having like what, like things, like, things like that.
The Colorado River has now been kicked off, and like they're not allowing it to go to California anymore, to Southern California, because there's not enough water to provide to Southern California.
See, this is another reason I want to like talk about, like, sometimes talk about our individual states, because we have in Canada, because we have there's so much going on like locally too. It's just like, holy shit.
I could definitely talk about the Delta down south about it a lot.
I mean, a couple years ago here, we had an abandoned, like, we had $1 billion energy project they were doing, and they just abandoned it, and like they had to like refund, like they had to refund like there was a class action lawsuit. They had to refund a bunch of us taxpayers because they just took all of our money for it. Like,
yeah, I remember reading about that.
That was one of the biggest energy projects in the nation. They were just like, nope, and there was just a big giant hole.
No, but I completely agree, and you know, I mean, we're losing coastline. I'm from, you know, the Mid-South, Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and everything. And we're losing coastline. We're losing all these things going on. This is now a climate emergency. Like, for example, a town called Sulphur, which was a historically minority town and had one of the oldest archives in that part of the state. It was actually built at a trade station. Priceless history, right?
Yeah.
During Hurricane Laura, off the map.
That's just like
the only thing
in like New Orleans. It's like, I bet there's so many things that are just like there's so much history just got erased from like.
Yeah, and history is important. That's how we learn from things. And the fact that we're not sending federal dollars to help deal with climate change, to do with climate initiatives, to deal with this collapse, to go like, okay, how do we preserve our history? How do we preserve our culture so we keep telling these stories so people know what's going on? The fact that we're not spending money on this and on education, but instead we're spending it on war, and we're spending it on our prison industrial complex, really shows just how screwed up our country's priorities are. Because it's not going to matter how many weapons the military has when we're all when we're all dealing with some of the most extreme heat imaginable.
Mm-hmm. I'm scared that one of those bombs might blow up because it gets hotter.
That's definitely something that
like batteries, everything explodes if it gets too hot. Like, if any explosions happen all the time because something just got like.
You know how you can microwave bullets?
Oh God! Like, just imagine that it gets so hot, and then like a bomb goes off in Wisconsin, because that's where all of them are. They're like underground in fucking like Montana and Wisconsin. I mean, granted, no one's around because of like they're like, but Wisconsin, but you know, a lot of cheese loss or some shit.
Maybe they're gonna fight this one.
It still messes with the water supply.
Exactly, and the cloud's just gonna blow all the way over, like, and that's it. I was listening. I forgot I was listening to something. I'm sorry, we got to wrap up. But this is just like, we think about how we're affecting the earth and just destroying it, and like volcanoes erupting. Like, we have like one of the biggest volcanoes in like Yellowstone. If that shit erupts again, if that shit erupts like seriously erupted, that could like destroy all of America. Like, that literally could destroy all of America.
Yeah, and it could basically release the ash clouds so intense that we would go into the temperature of the earth would go down by several tens of degrees for like a couple years.
I don't want to like that's what's like it's just so terrible. Like, you're talking all these days we keep pushing back, and then like one day you wake up and then the shit's on. You know, that's what I fear. Like, just waking up and then you just wake up one day and it's on. And you just gotta.
We're giving a lot of would-be dystopian novel writers a lot of good material to work with by now, just talking about this kind of stuff. So, yeah, make sure you guys credit us in the table of contents or the bibliography or whatever of whatever sci-fi novel you make that accurately predicts the future. Yet again, Jesus Christ.
Noli, what do you think of all this?
You're muted.
You're muted.
My bad. So I agree with you guys completely. I think that if we don't stop the military industrial complex, if we don't stop these large corporations and do it now, there's no point. We might as well just roll over.
Right. And
we might as well go ahead and go tell our kids, I'm sorry, but your kids are going to die a horrible death because of us.
Completely. And, one of the things that people forget, they think it's impossible, but we also thought Amazon would never be able to unionize.
Right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So anything's possible. And I choose to have hope because deep down I feel like people are fundamentally good people.
We control production of everything. We are the workers.
Exactly.
If we shut down production of everything for 3 days every week,
exactly.
Yeah, we would all have to tighten our belts, but we just had to do it with COVID. I think we can handle it to do it for the right reasons, which is to make sure that our kids and our grandkids and our great grandkids are going to be here.
Yeah.
Exactly. 100%. I completely agree with you.
It only costs $10 million to bring fresh water to everybody on the planet for the next 2,000 years. One of these bastards could handle that.
Elon Musk could. He just fucking bought Twitter.
Didn't Elon Musk fucking say he would give the amount of money to end world hunger to the United Nations, and it was $6 billion, and he just said nah?
He said if they presented, if they presented a detailed budget of how to do that, he would. And they were like, all right, and they did it. And he was like, I'm gonna buy Twitter now.
What the fuck, Elon?
But but before we get out of here, we're gonna do a round one more time. To everybody tell you what you have going on and when everyone can find you next. Let's start with Noli.
Okay. I was typing over here. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Well, as far as there's a good question over here about how can we stop the corporations, which is something I just mentioned, which is shutting down production 3 days a week across the board. I'm talking your cell phone's not even going to work because there's going to be nobody there to patch you through.
Got to jump fences and stuff.
I really think that right there would force those who are, the powers that be to do the right thing. Because they won't just do the right thing. They have to be forced to. And I think that right there's a darn good start as far as actually taking like literal leaps and bounds steps and not these baby steps with petitions and marches. And, sure, that gets people's attention, but only till the next day. You know what I'm saying? But if you shut down the production of everything, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of every week, they wouldn't make it a month before they started doing the shit we need them to do. That's where I'm at with it.
I like it.
Yeah.
I do too.
Let's do it. Don't go to work.
Just stop it. Just stop it. Stop everything. Amira?
So yeah, you can catch me here on PVN on every other week, at least once a month panels. You can also find me at Endemic Times, which is on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel and also a blog. Tomorrow, I actually have a new piece coming out about the issue of business is business, it's not personal, and my kind of opinion on that adage. And I had a new video recently on my YouTube channel talking about the Afghanistan economy, thanks to the Taliban recently making it illegal to cultivate poppies. So that's all the work I have coming out, and it was really great to see you, Noli. Thank you so much for being on this panel with us. It was great.
Amira,
Thanks for having me.
I think Amira also put up some of her videos onto the People's Voice Network as well. So
yes, I did. Yeah.
Oh, Comrade K.
Hi. You can catch me on weekly panels like this on the People's Voice Network with these lovely bastards. Everybody here, we're all amazing. And I mean that in an endearing way. You guys
Yeah.
And you can catch me every Wednesday with everyone. And I have a show that I do every Saturday at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Red Scared. I'm going to be doing a show this Saturday, and I'm also going to be doing a very special one on May 7th dedicated to the topic of sex work. I'll be bringing on Anna and Zoe to talk about sex work and all the stigmas and the horrors facing sex workers, and how we can fight for them, both as socialists and general sex work activists as well. Let's not make the same mistake our predecessors did. They're real workers, and it's time we started treating them like it. So, yeah, that's what I have coming up. You can find me on Twitter at that handle, and on TikTok, you can find me at that handle with that exact same name. Although, remove one of the D's because TikTok just sucks like that.
Okay. Noli?
Novi.
Yes, I'm going to say no. I called Novi Noli. Novi. There's two Novis.
Okay. Okay, y'all, I'm Novi, and I do a show here on the People's Voice Network called Live from the Empire, where we talk about our global empire's steady decline and the crises that people are exploiting from the decaying ruins. It's actually really fun in a dark humor kind of way. I'm also on the panels, and I'm on other stuff as well with People's Voice. I do research for y'all. I'm an independent researcher, and I've got research up on ResearchGate. I'll be sharing some of that available. I will be starting a TikTok, and hopefully that goes well in case I need help me. So,
PBN is getting on the TikTok train, and we're all very nervous because this is what the kids are doing these days. And we're just trying to.
I'm so old.
Comrade
I'm 27. But
it's not that old. You're okay. You're Jesus Christ. How are we gonna giving infants TikTok accounts in the future?
Man, there's going to be something crazy than TikTok out there by the time infants more infants are like.
Yeah, but you can find me on PBN. We're also doing a special episode this Saturday with Jay Buffont, who's with the Revolutionary Blackout Network. We are doing a fundraiser to help him because he's having some struggles going on right now, and we're going to be doing a thing talking about that. So we will have links on our YouTube shows about the fundraiser. Yeah. And please check out that special episode.
All right, and I'm Z. I do Revolutionary Reader, which I am currently. I have a poll out on the Twitter page, which is asking if you want to go over fascism versus socialism, Black Panther Party, or imperialism in the world. And right now, the Black Panthers are winning, of course, because it's going to encompass. If you go over the Black Panthers, you actually encompass all three of those topics. But I'm also on these panels here. You can catch me pretty much every Wednesday for the most part. And Andrew and I have been doing started a little thing called Overlooked News. It started off us just doing a panel, a little bit of extra news that we didn't go over during the week on Wednesdays, and we were just doing it on Sundays. But now we're actually officially a show now, so that's going to be pretty cool to go over. And hopefully we can get some of y'all on sometimes, and we'll have y'all on and have some as guests, and that'll be fun. But besides that, doing the dad life, doing the husband life, and chilling while capitalism falls. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But we're PVN, y'all, and y'all can we'll see y'all next time.